What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show, the home of epic conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations. And I was the 2018 award winner in the innovation category given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I am the host and co-producer of monthly online conversations for fathers that are co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and Dove Men Care. And we are broadcast. I look at my watch. I know I have to keep up with my life these days with a watch. It's July 19th. Uh, Usually we start at 5 p.m. Eastern time for black men. Black men. I got too many conversations. Black Canada talking. Had a little bit of a technical delay hiccup, but we are looking okay, sounding okay, thanks to BIA Media, very much so. And today, basically an open mic on this today, because once in a while we want you guys to speak, or you audience, or you the community to speak. So I'm putting it out there that I'd love to get your comments on anything that's going on. As always, the world is never slow with events. You know, everything from, the C word, COVID, and I'm just going to say COVID twice. Any other time I mention the C word, that's what I mean. It's still going on. Yes, a number of people are back to work, but some people aren't back to work. Some people don't have work to go back to. Other people are working at home or from home, working longer hours from home. Not I know someone very close to me that they now are working 9 to 7 Monday to Friday from home, and the work is twice as much as if they were in the office. Go figure. And is there any pay raise? No, there's none out there. That's one thing you can check out. What's going on with you, Black Canadians, or people around the world? When I did my Facebook Live to promote this conversation today, someone was chiming in from New York saying, "Hey, I'll be on." So I'm hoping that I'm speaking to that person will be on and just giving their perspectives of what's going on in the United States. If you too would like to just come on live, BIA Media will put a link out on the bottom of the screen if you'd like to come on live, and would love to have you interact with Dr. Vibe and the community live. A number of different things going on. So let's chat. I guess I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, so the hottest conversation piece going on right now in Toronto. Yesterday, Black Lives Matter. Toronto had a protest, and three of the protesters, I don't know if they were members of Black Lives Matter, but three of the people marching spray painted some statues of Canadian historic people. Two of them, John A. Macdonald, who I believe is the first Prime Minister of Canada, and another gentleman named Egerton Ryerson, who has a school, Ryerson University, named after him. Black Lives Matter question and those statues and want those statues down. Well, believe with Mr. Ryerson, the fact that he introduced a schooling system that was not advantageous or very, how can I say, did not treat Indigenous students fine. Let's put it that way. They wanted Black Lives Matter want these statues down. They spray painted. These three individuals were arrested for spray painting some of these statues. And then the three individuals were arrested and held for many, many, many hours yesterday. Not a good look on the police, unfortunately, but for many, many hours they were held. And people were, I know some members of the news media, I think, or some social advocates were trying to call the police station. And I don't know whether the phone lines were jammed, they couldn't get through, or it wasn't, the calls weren't being answered. And then early this morning, it was atrocious, the residential schools. Nicole Waldron, how are you? Nicole has become was always been a supporter of Dr. Vibe, but is just a huge supporter. Nicole, would you like to join in on the conversation today? Because if you want, we can send you a link and we can chop it up for a bit and you can give your thoughts on that. So please give me your thoughts on that. First I'll say if you want to come on, that would be great. If not, we can go back and forth, because I know Nicole was also actually follow her, Victory Speaks 7 on social media. I should say that first and foremost. She is very, very active on social media platforms, and she was celebrating Nelson Mandela Day yesterday. Excuse me. So that's something we can talk about. Nelson Mandela's legacy, if it's still relevant and still pertinent in today's society. So yeah, the Black Lives Matter thing, it was just like an ongoing all throughout the day, and uh, it was trending on Canadian social media, especially on Twitter, yesterday throughout the day. Uh, but I don't know exactly what you mean, Nicole, but it was atrocious, the residential schools. So I'd love you to expand on your commentary, and preferably I'd like you to do it live, but if you're not comfortable or not camera ready, as they say, love you to at least keep the conversation going on in the chat. That's one thing that's going on in Canada. Just a number of things. What is the next step in regards to systemic racism and anti-Black racism in Canada? What are your thoughts? Actually, okay. So, Luke, what I need you to do is if you could put the link for the either send it through me to private chat and I can email it or direct message it to Nicole, or if you want to put it at the bottom. Okay, let's leave it at that. So let's just see here. She's ready. So Luke, if you can, from BIA Media, can you put the link for the chat at the bottom? There we go. So Nicole, I don't know if you're seeing in the comments. I think she's actually, yeah. So he's put it on both, on the Dr. Vibe show and on my Facebook platform and my YouTube platform. So this is what we were looking for, someone to come in and join the epic conversation. So I'm speaking in a few moments. Nicole will come on in and bring it like she always does with her heart. She's going to bring it. So this is what I mean. I'm just going to have an open mic and we're going to try this out for the first time and see how it works. And if it's something that is a success, once a month or once every few weeks, we'll just do an open mic. And I will be looking forward to doing it more often. We can promo it. So we're just waiting for Nicole to come in. Other things that are going on personally, professionally. What did I have happen today or this week that's been really great? Had someone make me a Dr. Vibe show shirt that I didn't expect it at all to happen. So that's a story in itself. Had a great conversation today with a lady who I had not seen since February, and she has been going through some really challenging times, but she was so happy. She was so happy. It was so nice. And I just sat and listened to her joyous life over the last 2 months for at least an hour. It was phenomenal conversation. And I basically stayed quiet and just listened to her. And at the end, she said, well, I wanted to find out what you were doing. I said, no, I'm just here listening. I'm just feeling your joy, receiving your joy. So I'm just filling up some air while we're speaking that Nicole is going to be coming on. So I'm speaking it that she is going to come on in the next few moments and chop it up and give us some insight or speak about what's passionate on her heart and what's going on in her journey right now and just share with us. So we're just waiting for Nicole to come on. What else do we have going on? Some things coming up this week. I have Danny Stone, business coach, mentor, author of 2 books, coming up tomorrow night. And whenever Danny and I come on, we just chop it up, give some thought process, talk about anything from business coaching to black males. That is some of the stuff that's going on. You know what? I am going to...
Hi, Dr. Vibe.
Dr. Nicole.
I'm not really camera ready. Oh, my God.
You have more hair than me, so you're camera ready. How are you, Queen?
Good. I'm good.
What's been going on in your world?
Well, lots going on in my world. Some of that's for off camera.
Understood. I received that.
But you mentioned yesterday Nelson Mandela Day. So 2 things yesterday.
Yeah, please.
Nelson Mandela's 102nd birthday would have been yesterday. And and it's funny when I look at the date, he was born July 18, 1918.
Oh, wow.
And I was trying to find the pictures, and I'll see if I can find it. But a few years ago, a group came together, and um, they actually got Della Nelson Mandela Boulevard. So that's a part of University Avenue has been renamed in his honor.
Wow.
Remember, he was in Toronto a few years ago, so they got that done. So that was a big feat. So that's there. But more, the other thing was the day before. John Lewis passed,
Yes. Yes.
as well as and he was the last of the six,
Fix.
and as well as VA. I always forget his last name. I don't know why I always do that with his last name. The Reverend, who was also a
Part of
social.
the six.
Yes. And so, I spent most of my afternoon, I think for 4 hours, just reading his quotes, and I'm trying to put together a little video. And this morning, actually, if anybody hasn't seen it, Oprah reshowed her masterclass on John Lewis. It was an hour special that is worth taking the time to watch. It really speaks to what it means to do protests, how to do protests, nonviolent protests, the importance of the vote, what they went through. Um, you know, they did this protest with such dignity. It's very humbling, and they had protest training, like what
Wow.
at you, what to do when they hit you. Like they were trained how not to react, and you know, you see the year before when the march to Selma, and when they the attack on them, and then seeing when him and Barack Obama, the full circle moment of him seeing Barack Obama sworn in, and then them walking across that bridge in a 50-year span of things changing. So to imagine that changes can happen. And what stuck out for me, I think this morning, because I was just having a morning of woosah, um, and I was watching it, was Black people have been catalysts a lot of the times when change has happened in many countries, especially in America. And through our pain, we have taken it and created change and been the forerunners in making change happen and being there with people. And we've always had allies, because you can't do it without allies no matter what. But we have been able to take our pain and turn it into power and affect nations and affect thousands of people. So that's one of the things that sat with me this morning.
You know, you've just dropped a number of knowledge bombs that could be a 12-part conversation between you and I. You know that. Yes. Okay. Want to, as always, shout out a great supporter, Sarah Ayongo from Ottawa. Thank you, Sarah. And she's,
Sarah,
yes, and talk.
hold it.
Okay. I
Gotta
think,
get on here. You should take me off and see if Sarah will
no,
come
no,
on, because
there's room.
Sarah is like,
There's room for both of you on if she wants to. I am waiting for the day because usually Sarah and I host things together, but I just like her to come on and not be a host and just share. So, Sarah, whenever you are ready, the platform is open. She did mention Mandela Day, the theme this year, each one feed one. And the name that you were thinking about, Nicole, was Reverend C.T. Vivian. And Sarah also says all the big six of the U.S. civil rights movements are gone now, sadly. So I know Nicole is freezing a little bit, but we can still hear her. But so, yes, definitely. And Sarah from Ottawa, wonderful to always have you in the presence, in the zone, so to speak. I would like to ask, and I don't know if Nicole is still with us, or Sarah, if you're with us. We talked about John Lewis and protests, and also I mentioned the front of our conversation today that Black Lives Matter protest yesterday in Toronto. Where does or where do protests figure in anti-Black racism, Black liberation? Do they still have the same weight that they did back in John Lewis's time? Thoughts? Okay. Thank you, Sarah, for your love. I think, Nicole, we're having some challenges on your end. Okay, Nicole, you are frozen now. So what I'm going to say, okay, yeah, I think that either Nicole may have to come back. Sorry, you can't talk right now. No problem. That's all right. This is whether you want to come on live or you just want to type away. Sarah, what's in your heart? What's in your mind? What do you want to have out there in the digital world this afternoon on July 19th? You know, the big six are gone. That is a sad moment in US history, and do they need those? They need a new six now. You know, that takes it makes need a new six now, big time. Okay, so let's continue on as we're launching, just doing this conversation, open mic sort of conversation right now. What can our young ones learn from John Lewis? Great question. I think one of the things that they can learn, well, a number of things they can learn from John Lewis. One, persistence. Very much so. Mr. Lewis uh, kept on being persistent, never gave up.
I think it's
I
breaking up
think
again.
one of the things that persistence. Okay, so we're getting some feedback. Very much so, Mr. Lewis. Okay. I think one of the that hello, Gina is in the house in New York City. Okay, so Nicole, can you hear me?
I think my Wi-Fi is causing feedback, so I may have to.
Yeah,
But I think my Wi-Fi is causing feedback.
yeah, you're
I'm
freezing.
gonna jump out because I'm met the way of the show.
Okay. Well, if you can come back in on another device, that'd be great. So, as again, hola, Gina Figueroa from New York City. Thank you so much for stopping by. What's on your heart? What's on your mind this afternoon from the United States? Persistence, but not in instant. Yes. Well, persistence, but in instant gratification. Yeah. Can that happen in an instant gratification world? Well, that's a darn good question. I think that I'm all about it's a journey, not a race, and I think one of the things I would love the younger generation to do is take time and invest in looking at the life of John Lewis and the other six and others. But I don't know, and I'm not just saying young people. Many of us we're instant gratification. We're just looking for the immediate results, and the immediate results. Look, if we were looking for immediate results, the fight for anti-black racism, systemic racism, we would have quit that a long time ago. So I think also strategic planning, uh, knowing your rights, and never, never, ever, ever giving up. And the social dominance, probably the social media aspect of that. Social media is good if it's used. I find too many are into likes. Yes, I agree. I fully agree in regards to the likes, clicks, selfies of protests. Protests are good, but what happens after the protest? All right? What happens after the protest? Nicole says, love how he said, I got in the way. I got in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. Absolutely. Fully agree. Going back to what Sarah said, yeah, protests are good to a certain point. I believe they were much more relevant in the 60s, but now, I don't know. Are protests still valid? You know, never give up. This is a long road. Have to keep the faith. Absolutely. One of my thoughts in regards, if we want to see anti-black racism vanish, which it needs to vanish, one of the aspects is economics. Blacks need to amass their economic power because I believe we live in a capitalistic society. We don't live in a democracy. And those who have the power in this so-called democracy are ones who have the economic power. Sarah says there seems to be a lack of discipline, little studying of those who came before. Absolutely. No doubt about it. And the funny thing is, Sarah, in the time of world history, it's easier, to access the stories of some of these great individuals than it ever has been. It ever has been. The access to information is so key. Let's see. I agree with Sarah. Nicole saying, yeah, I agree. There's a lack of discipline. Yes, absolutely. The three ladies are carrying this conversation. Sarah from Ottawa, Nicole from Toronto, Gina from New York. Keep it going. I'm just steering the ship, ladies. You're driving the ship. So maybe one day we can get all three of you together to have an international conversation. Nicole and Sarah from Ottawa, and Gina from New York. Absolutely true. One of the things I'm become really passionate about is intergenerational conversations. Sarah just put up another conversation. Economic self-empowerment is a community, is a radical form of protest. Absolutely. Absolutely. Economic power is so key these days. We really have to look at it that, separately we may not be great, but together there's such a key. We got to clean house at home, get right within. Nice comment by Gina. And I don't know if I shared this with Sarah or many people before, but I think my thoughts are Sarah knows a lot of history. Oh, I received that. Sarah's a powerhouse. We need to strategize. Absolutely. I believe that Blacks, if they want to really make huge change, they have to take control of certain areas. They have to control education, the education of themselves. They have to control the media. They have to control jobs. They got to control business. And some way, somehow, they have to get more control of the criminal justice system. If Blacks can make inroads in those areas, owning the businesses, owning the block, yes, owning it. Absolutely. So true. And no better time to strategize it now. And again, let's go back. And Sarah mentioned earlier about the social media. We have the digital platforms now where we can communicate and not be in the same physical space. We can strategize and not be in the same physical space. When has that happened in the history of the world? Gina says community grassroots. Absolutely. But I'll put a caveat to that. We have to realize okay, I'm going to make a statement here. I want to get everyone's response who's live or even on a replay here. A gentleman who I respect as a mentor, he said to me a little while back, he doesn't feel there are Black communities. There's Black neighborhoods. So does a Black community exist, or are there Black neighborhoods? If you notice, John Lewis studied Dr. King, was strategic, learned, listened, and was teachable. When they planned a protest, they supported each other. Yeah. I'm a firm believer of I have an acronym LTD. Learnable, teachable, duplicatable. So is what great leaders like John Lewis, C.T. Vivian, may they rest in power, and others before them, and even those who are still around today, is what they have laid foundation-wise: learnable, teachable, duplicatable. More comments coming in. The Buy Black movement is a great start. Yes. Gina's saying deep. Yes. Learnable, teachable, duplicatable. Buy Black is important. Very important. And the recycling of Black money in the Black environment. But I do want to get a feedback on, do you believe a Black community exists, or are there a number of Black neighborhoods? Would love to know your thoughts on that, family. Black community versus Black environments. Very key. Gina says yes. What are you saying yes to, Gina? Please tell me. And thanks again to Gina, Nicole, and Sarah being on the platform live with me via chat and just driving the conversation. I'm just steering it. They're driving the conversation. What other topics are we gonna put out there today? What else is on in your mind, in your hearts, ladies, and people who join in? You wanting to share about today? Because there's more than enough going on, and I don't want to talk about a famous or infamous Hollywood couple who have basically put their laundry out into the universe. I'm not going to chat about them. That's on another channel. Thank you very much. That's all I'm going to say about that. I have, okay. The Buy Black came in with the Black Coalition, and they are now a movement making strategic moves. They have also started an international Black business directory. Nicole, is that the gentleman that you mentioned a few weeks ago? I can't remember his name. I've noticed in my neighborhood a breakdown of Black community. Wow. So Gina, you're based in New York, correct? Calvin Martyr is Mater. I don't know if it's Mater or Martyr. My apology if I messed up his name. It's my head, not my heart. So Gina is saying, and you're in from New York, Gina. If I know, is it a specific area of New York? And you're seeing the breakdown of the Black community. What is caused you to say that, and why do you feel that is happening? Would like to know why that's happening from in your eyes, Gina. And it is, just want to introduce myself again, Dr. Vibe, award-winning online conversation host. I don't do shows, I do conversations. Okay, yes, the Lower East Side in New York. Now, what is happening to the Black community there? Are they being gentrified? And maybe that's why it's breaking down? Because I know it's not cheap to live in New York, and plus the events of this year have not been great for Black people. So I'd like to know all about that. As I was saying, yeah, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also host and co-produce monthly online conversations for men that are co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization, and Dove Men Care. And what we're doing today on July 19th, I didn't look at my watch this time, is we're just having sort of an open mic via chat, or if you want to come on screen, you can do that also. Gina's saying we had Black Panthers and Young Lords keeping up culture, and it now seems about money over people, fighting each other. Oh, there again, there it is, the capitalistic society. Money is valued more than people. Do we have that situation in Black Canada? That is a perspective from Gina in New York. Are we having that same situation in Canada? Are we valuing money more than people, which is causing a lack of great potential unity. Gentrification has created a crab mentality. Gina is bringing it from New York. Nicole and or Sarah or others, if you're in Black Canada, what do you say about that? Is that happening in where you are living in Canada? Would love to get your feedback on this. And again, thank you, Gina, for providing the great content. How do you join via phone? What you would need to do, Sarah. So if Luke, can you put the link up again in the chat? So when I mentioned Luke is the driving force behind BIA Media. So Gina's saying bullying is prevalent. So yes, Sarah would like to come on BIA Media, but if you can just put the link for there we go. So Sarah, if you go to the comments on my Facebook page, BIA Media has just put the link there. So if you click on the link, that should take you into the room and you can join us. I would absolutely. Oh, right.
What's happening, my man? How you doing?
Ryan Singh, how are you doing?
I'm all right.
We're getting a little bit of feedback because you don't have.
Okay, you need me to get my earpiece.
If you get an ear, you help you.
All right.
And Gina's saying, "I've talked to you, so you get your earpiece in." Oh, you said it's here now. So Gina's saying from New York, Miss. Oh, it's happening again. Okay. So there we go. He's got his headset on, and we have Nicole saying about Ryan, in the woods, Ryan. Can't hear you though.
Yeah, I'm camping.
Now we go, in the woods, Ryan. There we go. So, and Nicole says, in the woods, Ryan. So, Ryan, thank you for taking time out of your schedule. You're camping, or as a lady, know you're blamping, because instead of yell, instead of you're blamping, share what you do with our wonderful audience.
I'm a filmmaker, storyteller. I do 101 different things. I'm an overachiever. But most importantly, I kind of like to document and tell stories from a Black perspective, and whether I'm empowering women to be the storyteller while I produce them,
Look at this.
or something else, that's what I do.
Wonderful. And
Hello there. I'm in the
hello.
woods.
This is great. And you're blessed. There's two wonderful children. Hello.
Yeah, they can't hear you, but he says hello.
All right. Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I don't know what your conversation you've been following, but I just want to put it out there in regards to. Yeah, did you have any words to say about the death of John Lewis?
I just recently watched Selma, and really understood what he meant for America, and I think it's a great loss, especially now that we are back when he was 15 years old and fighting for civil rights. Imagine, he was just a child when he got treated like a criminal, even though he was fighting for something that was he's entitled to as a human being. Right. And I look at my own kids, and they're little ones, and they could potentially have problems or be criminalized. I recently wrote an article about my kid when he was 15 years old in school, and the experience that he had as a young child, being his pants being pulled down while he was in class. And then my worry was, will he be criminalized or something like that? Because that's a worry. And so John Lewis passing away, he was a voice because he lived that experience, being a part of Selma, and knowing how voiceless they were, and trying to create a discourse, a dialogue, and an engagement. And so America has lost a very major voice right now with John Lewis.
Thank you for your insight. If you actually, here's a question, because you mentioned John Lewis's life, where he's at, or he was at 15 years old, and where we're at right now. Let me ask, you have two wonderful children, and also send your love to your dear wife for me.
Yeah, she's here with us.
I know she is. I know she is. If you look at the life that your children are at right now and compare yourself to their age, are things better, the same, or not as good?
Well, when I was young, I came here at 16 years old. So my experience was growing up with all Black leaders in my community. Unfortunately, right now, Guyana itself is going through its own civil unrest, where they have not had a leader for almost over a year and a half now. And It's just been a struggle since their election March 2nd to decide on a leadership because there's such disenfranchisement. Watching that and then being in Guyana during that election and being up here and watching the experience that we're going through, I mean, it's different, but there's still a struggle. There's an ongoing struggle because until there is equal rights, there's a fight for equality.
Makes sense. Makes sense. How much of the advancement of equal rights you feel is economics based?
I think 90% of it is economic based because if you don't have ownership of your intellectual property, of land, of your consumer engagement, of your businesses, then you don't have the power of say. We keep fighting, but we keep also what you call groveling. And I think part of that is that even though I may have a gold block that I hold as my paperweight, if I don't know how to give it value or it's not given value, that's just a piece of stone. And so when you look, it's not that we're poor as a human being, it's that we've been devalued as a people. And when you look at the rating system of the currency, you get the what do you call it when you're rating currency, where African currency is 500 to 1 or 200 to 1 or 10,000 to 1 when you go to some countries. Well, do they have the value? They have value in people, but that value is relative to someone else saying, this is your value and this is how much we'll appropriate your value for, but we'll sell you back the same things that we've just taken from your natural resources at 100 or 500 times the value of what we took it away from you for.
So how do Black people, what do Black people need, or a number of Black people, because I'm not going to make a general statement, what do a number of Black people have to do to increase their value of themselves? Because I think there's a challenge with some members of the Black environment that they don't value themselves. And if they don't value themselves, it's going to be challenging to value yourself in front of people who don't look like you.
My kids are actors and young producers and writers right now. At 6 years old, I encourage and empower them to gain those titles. And I didn't just give it to them. I mentor them, and we're still completing our short film. What we need is more leadership, more engagement, and more participation. And me as a father in the film business, I told you I have 101 titles, but I have that for a reason. And the people around me, I empower. You and I have had several conversations over this kind of discussion.
Absolutely.
And it's about empowering, it's about participating, it's about representing, but it's also about mentoring. And so one of the things that we do need, or many of the things that we do need, is for representation in these places, in every aspect of the economy and systems of life, but also for us to gain a meaningful engagement in those places so that we can, at the dinner table, be teaching our children, hey, this is how we do it. This is what we do. This is what you need to know about finances. This is what you need to know about wealth building. And this is how I start you out by, it's like lighting a fire. We're just learning how to light fire. We got to start lighting our little fires and burning them properly.
Beautiful analogy. I just want to catch up with some of the comments here. Nicole saying John Lewis was so instrumental with getting Black people the right to vote, and we're still working on recent developments on voting till in 2020. Great to see Sylvia Paris from the Atlantic region with us saying, when Mr. Lewis told us all for us use to call ourselves in the battle. Good trouble. That term good trouble is getting out. Sarah's saying, what? Oh boy, here we go. Sarah is on fire. What does black leadership, especially political and civic, look like in Canada? Unlike in the US, there isn't one black group that represents a critical mass of historical black presence in Canada. We have so many ways of black migration, so many different ways we got here. Hence the difficulty in creating that mythical unified black community. Then there is the Anglo-Franco divide. Yeah, that's Sarah. I'm going to ask you a favor. When are you ready to come on Black Canada Talking and talk about that subject? What does black leadership look like, political and civic, in Canada? Because I question that myself.
Well, there's a lot of black leadership happening in Canada, but like everywhere else, one of the things is when those leaders, those community activists are also struggling economically. Think about it. If you have a certain level of wealth and engagement, you're probably not participating in a community engagement. And the volunteers that afford themselves to do so oftentimes are also waiting for their next paychecks. The leaders who are economically savvy and have understood the system do not want to like Michael Lee Chin, for example. Think about it. Canada's one black billionaire who owns a bank in Jamaica.
Yeah.
But then you have a bunch of other people who say, oh, if I go to Michael Lee Chin, maybe I can have him support my thing instead of looking at how to build it. So now he has to keep himself relatively unavailable to everyone who comes asking. And so when you've reached a certain level of economic success, you don't want to be accessible anymore.
Which is not African principle, because African principle is the village.
I can only speak about within our community and what I see.
Absolutely.
Right. You name any other amount of black leaders, they'll throw the support. They may throw some dollars, but they want to remain invisible. And so the real leaders who understand change and change management don't participate as they should.
So there is a discussion point right there that another probably future conversation piece, maybe building on about the leadership. Why aren't those people you mentioned getting engaged? That is a huge, because I've had this conversation a number of times in the most recent weeks that there are people out there that could help shortcut the shortcut, but they're not showing up for whatever reason.
Well, their businesses get affected, right? The moment that someone knows that you're gonna, here's what I'm gonna say. Now, Guyana's national hero is Kofi. If anyone knows about Guyanese history, Kofi in 1763 ran the first successful slave rebellion. For 1 year, he held the county of Berbice at bay. No one was able to come in. No one was able to go out. He ran Berbice. But within a few months, even though he had continued to cultivate the plantations and get the sugar and do everything, he didn't have a market to go to. So even though he had successfully freed slaves and brought them out of captivity, they started to have to eat their own livestock. Imagine that. And after a year, he freely surrendered back into slavery. Right? This is the state of being that we're in. When you have success and people don't want you to have that success, they do everything to chop you down and allow you to eat your livestock. And we're at a point where success, showing leadership and success and being successful leads you to eat your own children.
So the crabs in the barrel.
not crabs in a barrel. It's just a system that it perpetuates keeping you in your position.
Okay, and I agree with you, Ryan. But my question is, where is the escape hatch? Like, because we're perpetuating. It's like the mouse in the cage that keeps on running around the wheel. What is it? What do you feel it's going to take for that wheel to stop and that mouse say, you know what? I'm going to get out of this cage. I'm not just going to keep on going around the wheel.
It's again, it comes back to if we have enough power where we are so well placed, well situated in every aspect of social and economic powers, that when one speaks and someone says we need to chop it down, we have the pillars of support to say no, you're not going to chop it down. We'll show you how we'll keep it up. And so this new movement, where it's not just persons of color that are fighting, but also the allies. So when you chop that down, there's 10 more that's come up to say, no, we're supporting that. And that has to have a longevity of momentum. Because as long as we can stay the course and survive and stay living and eating while the fight is continuing, then the strong is going to become weaker, and then they'll have to give in. And that's what you're seeing. Statues are falling, but not only statues are falling, statutes are also falling.
Drop that again.
Statues are falling, but not only statues are falling, statutes are falling.
Nice. Strong. BIA Media Luke, can you put up the last comment by Sarah? I think that was on point. Goes, Ryan is right. The lack of economic clout hampers the development of sustainable, powerful Black leadership. I also find too many Canadian Blacks don't really know the history of Blacks in this country and still can't grasp all these ways of migration are part of one huge continuum of Black experience in this country. Hence the inability to see themselves constituting one Black community. Sarah, well put. Anything you'd want to add to that, Ryan, what you just said?
I actually work in a project called the Black Experience in the GTA. And one of the things is, and I guess someone points it out, it's written in the contract, but one of the things that happened was once the Black community had galvanized and given support to this experience, with the promise that we will be able to evaluate the experience and understand it because it's a community-based engagement, then once they had the data, they were saying, hey, we don't need you anymore because it would be a biased analysis. But we are often given the carrots, and we follow the carrot, promise the 40 acres, but all these promises seem 40 acres for a fool or a carrot for a mule. And so, but these organizations, like even for myself, I was disenfranchised part of my wages because they wanted to appropriate all of the content. And I'm like, I am the content creator, copyright holder of the content. And I don't mind sharing it, but to relinquish it means I have no more power in owning the content that I participated in creating. And I had to pay more than I had earned to lawyers. And the thing that I kept hearing is that even if you won, you still will not win because you would have lost so much in economic power. And this is $1 billion company.
Wow.
Right? This is $1 billion, and this is the giants that the Davis got to fight.
You noticed what's been going on protest-wise and what's been going on over the last few weeks. Do you have hope that this will lead to some significant change in the near future?
Well, Shaman only works for a part-time right now. All right. But most of the people in power who disenfranchise big communities, they may give in at one point, but you got to read the fine prints, and that's the thing that we'll have to read is the fine prints. What are they giving in, and how limited is it? There's a limitation clause on some of these, and then it reverts back to them owning, but not only owning, they're also taking from us that which we contributed in the movement. And so one of the things that we need to be wary of is when we talk about engaging black leaders and black discourse and dialogue, we also have to have the organizations and institutions to be able to go in and talk about diversity, or else we're going to have white counterparts who were allies also taking over those jobs because they helped with the fight, so they understand the fight and they are better able to package it. And now I look at you, you look like us, and we look at you, you've been part of the fight, so we're going to say you have the credibility to speak on behalf of those people.
Sarah saying, speak, Ryan, we must protect Black intellectual property. Nicole says, so we have to become more detailed in our contracts as creators. Yes, and Sarah saying, yes, Nicole, the fine print. We also must learn to say no. So, Ryan, you're a content creator. Can you just give us a few moments to all Black Canadian content creators out there, how important it is to keep their intellectual property?
We got to know the law. First, we got to know the law. One thing that I was told is, you're using the law to fight us. Well, yeah, it was created for the small man to protect himself, or else the big Goliaths are always going to be taken from the small man saying that we paid you to do this. So we got to know the law. We got to understand it, because one of the things that myself, I can't speak as a people, I haven't done enough reading to understand what I'm missing. And so I have to read, and I spend more time now reading so that I understand what is in front of me, so I understand how to play the game. Because many times these people they go in well studied on the cultures, and we are living in the culture and we don't know what's going on next door to us.
Yes. Yep. You gotta know yourself. You gotta know them better than they know them.
Yeah.
That is very good. Yeah. Oh, and Gina from New York says a title of a very famous book, The Art of War. Classic book. I think I'm going to suggest every Black person should read that book, and another book called Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson. Those two books important. Stacy saying it is important to keep intellectual property, know the laws. So Nicole is saying now let's do a creators workshop with our peers. All right. So you know what? I'm going to probably invite Mr. Ryan Singh back on a Black Canada Talking and talk about the importance of keeping your intellectual property.
Well, yeah. I smile and I'm looking at you.
Well, it's interesting. Sylvia saying agree. The Art of War is great. Absolutely. Sarah saying, do we have enough Black lawyers in Canada with expertise in IP law? If not, why not? That's a very good question. Ryan, you have been involved in the entertainment field for a number of years. Have you seen or know of a lot of Black Canadian intellectual property lawyers or entertainment lawyers?
I know of a few, and they are around. Have I used them? I've used some of them for the work that I do. But part of our intellectual property is also part of our human rights property. Sometimes our human rights are violated, even in our trying to secure our intellectual. So, so you got some people that look at that. But much of the things that we are involved in is really precedent setting, even in today's world, right? Because we didn't realize that we were being taken advantage of, and then when those things go to being arbitrated on, it's a precedent that has to be set, because it's never been challenged before. It's the status quo.
Okay. I'll definitely want to chat with you offline to see if we can get one or two of those individuals on to talk about that, because I think it's a very, and especially now, as you and I know, especially this year, this has been a great opportunity for content creators.
Absolutely.
And they've got to make sure, because actually I was approached by an organization wanting to, let me put it this way, publish some of my content. And the first question I asked them is, I want to keep it mine. Is that a yes or no? And they said yes. I said, okay, we can move forward, because if they're going to take any of it and claim it as their own, we're not doing business.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's the main thing is, do you own or continue to own? I'll tell you, Michaela, I forgot her last name, but she just recently wrote a TV series, and Netflix wanted to offer her $1 million, but have the ownership of the IP, right? And she's like, hell to the no, and she wanted to have. She wanted to retain 5%, and they're like, no, that's not how we do business.
They didn't
5%.
They didn't even want her to have 5%. They said no.
Yes. Right. The article is there, and she decided she did. I think chewing gum. She did chewing gum for Netflix. They helped to build her career the way it is, but she wanted to have 5% retention of her intellectual property because she wrote from her soul this new TV series. She went, another company came and allowed her to keep a significant portion of her intellectual property.
Lesson learned there, and I think Sarah said it earlier. Learn to say no, and also there's always different shops on the block. You don't have to say yes to the first offer.
Absolutely.
Shop it around, because if your content is valuable, people will pay for it, and pay not only financially but ownership wise. If they really want it, they're going to do whatever they can to get it.
But one other thing, and you've done this quite independently, Dr. Vibe, is you've got to be willing to invest in your own IP. Because if you don't create the pilot, if you don't do the development, then, and I came in and I said, I'll cover the cost for that. Then I'll cover the cost, and then your currency gets devalued.
Yes.
Because now I want back 100% on my dollar that I spent on you, which means you're not going to get anything until I get 100%.
You know what? Nicole is back, and she's broken her Wi-Fi to get in on this conversation. Nicole, how you doing?
I good. I was watching Ryan earlier with the flood in the tent with the kids.
Yeah.
But you know what? I know we're talking about the content and the intellectual property, but something you said earlier, Ryan, made me have to go pull my hair back in one, get the Wi-Fi going. And you know, I gotta say this, as a father, as a husband, as a mentor, you're like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
I don't know what that means.
I'll break it down to you one day. And the fact that you talk, and you're such a community advocate, the fact that you and your wife is too, that she allowed you to say, okay, I'm breaking out of the family time for a minute to come in and share your wisdom and knowledge about the history makers, about what you do, and now about how, as a filmmaker, what it means. But the part that really is blowing my mind is you as a dad. That you have given the titles to your young children and empowering them in such an amazing way that is legacy making. It is groundbreaking, and I have been trying not to cry. I've had to walk around the house, go out to the balcony, and come back, because this is going to change and make your children so foundationally strong that it is going to change their lives forever and the lives of others, because what you're doing for them, the impact you're making in their lives, that's one generation that's going to affect another generation. This is like 40 generations deep, Ryan, what you're doing.
Well, I hope
And I
so.
know you're intentional. I know
I
you're
hope so. It is intentional because when I sit on some sets and I've been grinding for the last umpteen years. I've
hmm
been doing the business for over 36 years. And I've been hustling in Canada for over 26 years, ever since I've come to Canada. And I will be on set, I walk on sets, and I will see a 21-year-old who is running a multi-million dollar enterprise. He's a director of this film. And when you look back at the history, their father gave them a camera when they were 7 years old, could have afforded to give them the camera.
hmm
Right. And so I said to myself, now that I have children, even if they break it, why can't I afford to give them the camera? And if you watch that video this morning of the flood, then there was a video last night where they took my camera and showed the inside of the tent.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so it's for them to tell their stories, and their stories are just as valid as anyone else's story.
And when I think about that,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I know it. Hi guys. I know when I think about that, I think about John Lewis, and this is like it's almost like what you're doing is almost like a homage to his legacy, in a sense that he watched his dad, you know, and his dad was. Are you gonna even hear me, Ryan?
He
Because now
won't
she's
be able
taking
to
off the.
read off.
He's taking off the
Hear what is
headset.
going on.
Okay, so you can hear me because I can see we've gone with some echo.
Yeah, there's a
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay,
And,
Go ahead.
and with John Lewis, his dad was his mentor as a farmer and raising the chickens and all those different things and instilled some values into him. And so I think even in those values, as we speak about it, the values that you talk about when you went into that room and they said to you, we're going to use your property, but you had little say in what they did with your property. What you're learning now is going to help them in the future. And it's helping all of us because now we all know each other for years. And it's the first time we're having this conversation together. COVID has opportunities, and this is one of the opportunities in the crisis. And
hey,
when I think of producers like Nico Brewster at CBC, Emily Mills, who used to work at CBC, when I start thinking of when I think of Trey Anthony, I think we need like a workshop with these giant slayers who are in the business, and I'm just naming some of them.
Well, there's been some workshops. There are active workshops. If you're part of this work, then what you can have me invite you to a place called the BIPOC Film and TV community. It's where these conversations are happening.
Okay.
But we don't know you. You have to go on to real world
Film festival?
real access. Real
Okay.
World has a place
Yes.
called Real World Access,
Yes.
and sign up. So if you're
Okay.
a creator, if you're a content creator, if you participate, and I know you are a producer as well for a number of television companies. I've seen you work there before, and radio stations.
Back
You
in
need
the
to
day.
sign up.
Okay.
No, 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 no. And that's
I'm
the
coming back.
problem.
Coming back.
That's
I'm
the
actually
problem.
coming back. I'm coming back.
We have 101 different career paths, and you
Right.
never know when our next job gig is going to require you. Dr. Vibe is looking for producers actively right now, right? He's transitioned into video. You
Right.
have had that kind of experience and know how to do something like that. He doesn't know that. Now he's learned it,
Right.
right?
Thank you,
And
Ryan.
so we gotta put ourselves on. I published real world access on a place called the I Need a Producer, Fix a Crew, and someone came on board to say, why are you publishing this? Is this just for non-union people?
hmm
Because they don't assume that many of us would have had the experience, knowledge, and know-how to even participate in the union. I'm
Right.
like, no, it's for union and non-union people to sign up on these lists. He's like, well, there's no more jobs happening in 2020 because of COVID. I'm like, well, this is for 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2030.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, you need to go to Real World.
Yes, sir.
Get onto their access list
Yes, sir.
and stop saying that you used to and say, I am.
Ah, boom!
Yes, sir.
Mic drop.
Yes, sir.
Mic drop.
I am going to be obedient.
Yeah, but everyone in your network that you have been working with, they don't know because they're not part of that community.
Right, right.
And we have to shepherd everyone in, because unless we are there in numbers and we say, we're not waiting, we're creating,
Yes.
right? But we're creating and we're saying we're also available.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm going to start winding down. I will say a few things. First of all, Ryan is true to his word, and I'm going to give a quick 1-minute story. A number of months ago, I was trying to write an application for CBC, and I was struggling. I mean, struggling, because writing is not my gift now. It's getting better, but it's not there yet. And it was like 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. And if you don't believe in miracles, this is going to change your head. This man in the center of our screen called me and asked me what was going on. He said, Ryan, I need your help. I'm trying to write this application, and I'm struggling. He spent an hour and a half on the phone with me. The next day, I said, Ryan, I'm going to do something. I'm going to work on this the next day, and I'm going to get back to you on Monday. I finished it off on the Sunday, gave it to him on the Monday, and he said, this is brilliant. But if it wasn't for Ryan, I don't know if I would have completed, but I would have had that satisfaction of overcoming and that mentorship. And
Village.
and I will say one other thing for everyone watching this live out here or on replay. Use co-op Black students. They need the work right now.
Okay. Tell me how to find it offline. Tell me how to find it, because I need a couple for my
All right.
project.
Get a lot of our Black youth. Who knows what their education status is going to be for the next little while? They're looking to help. They're looking to get stuff on their portfolio.
Well,
go ahead, Ryan. One last.
I'm actually mentoring someone. When I was in Guyana, I went to bury my aunt in February, and I was leaving on the 4th, and I was in conversation with a teacher there, and she says, I have 2 students in this whole county that are doing their CXC in cinematography. They need your help. I had 45 minutes window, not 45, 10 minutes window. I spent 45 minutes with them, spoke to the father, a pastor, told him pre-COVID that he needs to get himself on television. I'm not calling myself a saint or anything.
Right? I know.
All right. Pre-COVID, told the daughter to reach out to me. Both now need the services that I talk to them about.
Wow.
Because now the father still has a church and congregation, but it was on lockdown for the last 3 months.
Wow.
His daughter's exam is no longer the same way. She now called me a week before exams to say, hey, can you help me? But our work is a global work.
Right.
Because in every part of this place, we have to help. We are living in a global economy.
Yeah.
And we never know where our next jobs will be.
Yeah.
Look, I've always had more business in the United States than in this country. And so I'm telling people, as Ryan said, think global.
Yeah.
The co-op help I have, I've never met them physically. We meet through this medium. So take it as, and before we close out, I will say, as always, Robert Smith, the richest Black person in America.
Mm-hmm.
More money than Oprah. He's worth $5.5 billion. He said a few months ago, don't waste crisis.
Yeah.
So if you are able, do not waste this crisis. I have had more business growth since March than I have in the last 6 years.
Wow. That's good.
So before we sign off, I'm going to say a few things. Thanks. Few final comments. Sarah said, yes, invest in your own content, preach. Gina says, own your own masters. Gina says, that is good. Gina also has experience in the music industry, so she knows about owning copyright. Sarah says, good black dads abound. Yes, I'm actually doing a series called Black Men Talking these days, so check that out. Um, Sarah also says, all our black stories are valid. She also says, we must collect, document, and copyright and share them. Sarah says, and she's giving some great names here. Dejanet Sears.
Sears, Janet Sears, yeah.
Yeah. Black Theater Workshop in Montreal. David Woods in Nova Scotia. Like, it's like Cheryl, Chicago, Francis Ann Solomon, Allison Duke, Tanya Lee Williams founded Real World. David's sister Marie in Toronto. Sarah said, we're not waiting, we're creating, as Ryan said. Sarah, also, we as a black community pay attention to the CRT licensing hearings. That's another key thing. We need to pay attention to see how we can claim more of these licenses to put more of our content on the air. I will agree with that, but also start your own thing. Start your own thing. There's so Robert has been investing in young people's education like crazy. So we got to get running soon. So first of all, Ryan, thank you for taking time from Blamping to to share with. Are you just a question? Are you Blamping in the GTA or outside the GTA?
All the way to the tip of Ontario.
Oh wow!
All the way to the tip of Ontario.
Wow. Okay, you're
in Tobermory.
Wow, Blamping. If people want to find out more about you, Ryan, where can they reach you?
They can reach me Twin Papa 321 on Instagram, Ryan Singh Enterprises on .com on my website, Ryan Singh Enterprises on Facebook, Ryan Singh Media on Twitter.
Matt, see, and he knows his stuff. He doesn't have to look. He doesn't have to look at his phone.
Going to look.
And Nicole, how can people find out more about you?
Twitter and Instagram, it is Victory Speaks 7.
Wonderful. Sarah says, thank you, Ryan. I'd like to thank Sarah, Gina, Ryan, Nicole.
Oh, wait. And on my podcast, it's Victory Speaks as well.
Yes. Remember that. Stacy. Yeah. And I also want to thank anyone who watched this live on the replay. Much appreciated. Believe it or not, I didn't know what was going to happen. I said, we're just going to throw this on. And you see, when you have good people and you do it with right intent, great things happen. I like to always say, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Think aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Also, make sure Nicole and Ryan, you just stay on for a minute after we are done. But I also like to say, like Robert Smith said, don't waste this crisis. And one other thing, one of my people I really believe in, Dr. Tachi, she always says she wants people to hashtag be more her. Be smarter, better, happier, kinder, wellner. All those things, make it happen. So one last thing, thank you to BIA Media. Next week on Black Canada Talking, we have our monthly roundtable at the end of the month. L. Jones, Cesar, and also Warren Clark. And in between, follow me, the drvibeshow.com. God bless, peace, be well, and keep the faith.